endless songs, endless skies, a lifetime in each other's eyes. But that wave crashed on a midnight drive. Time never meditates, rivers never hesitate, and every choice tempts the face and opens up a door.
What's up, Huckers? Big Country here again, out here on this beautiful sunny day in the snow, and we're going to talk about a type of disc and a type of shot that a lot of people neglect in their bags, and that is the lid. Most of you know that disc golf has its origins in the game of frisbee. Frisbees from Whammo at the time were fairly large diameter. They had a very flat, straight up and down inner rim, an extremely blunt nose, and a raised fastback style top. The lid is something that somewhat carries over from the game of frisbee. In fact, most ultimate frisbee players or maximum time aloft players, disc dog, what have you, that come over into disc golf initially prefer a lid. And you'll see them being able to throw them a lot farther than most disc golfers can even throw the regular beveled edge type putters. Now, the characteristic of a lid are that same flat up and down inner rim, a very flat top, and a super blunt nose. They're always putt and approach discs because they're very low speed with a high amount of glide. The reason they're called a lid is simple. Your typical lid looks like a paint can lid or a coffee can lid, whatever your pleasure. What I bag at this time in my bag is the Yikun Talon or Claws. This is available in their Tiger Line plastic. It's a pretty baseline plastic. It beats up fairly easily, but this lid here is actually one of the more overstable lids that is currently on the market. There were other more overstable lids back in the day, like when I was first started playing, but those don't exist anymore. Some other lids that we'll talk about today are the Salient Lockjaw, which is the spiritual cousin to the Yikun Claws. Salient and Yikun have worked out a partnership where they share mold. So the Lockjaw is extremely similar to the Claws or the Talon. It's got the same mold pattern, same type of plastic, but Salient calls it Karbon Ancient. All it's got is a different stamp. Kind of like the Lockjaw stamp a little better. But of course, these are, like I said, more overstable for lids. We're going to throw them against one of the classic lid molds along with the birdie, is the Innova Polecat. This Polecat here is from the limited run of Champion Plastic Polecats in the factory store. This one's just about max weight. It says 175, but it actually weighs 174. The problem that Innova had when they were molding up these Champion Polecats is that they didn't come out quite as flat as they would like. It's got a little bit of a higher shoulder, and they had a lot of problems trimming the flashing. So it's unlikely you'll see these ever again. When they came out, I had to pick one up. This one still has the typical glide of a Polecat, but it tends to be a little more overstable than your typical R Pro or DX Polecat. And then we're going to throw them against a forefather type disc. And while it somewhat meets the definition of a lid, this bad boy is, for all intents and purposes, a frisbee. This is the Te Moko from Aoetera or Eclipse Flying Discs out of New Zealand. You can tell it's got two of the main characteristics of a lid. It's got a very flat inner rim and a super blunt nose, but it's got the fastback style top that we talk about with your standard frisbee, which, like I said, is the forefather to the lid. This is actually fairly overstable for what it is, and it is approved for PDGA play. So you can use this for your approach shots and things like that. We're going to take these out to the course, and I'm going to show you a couple ways that you can use a lid and a couple ways that you probably shouldn't use a lid. Like I said, the Yikun Claws tends to handle a little bit more power. which lids generally are used for soft, floaty touch and approach shots. You can use them off tee on a shorter hole. We generally want to keep them nice and high up in the air and give them that room to glide out. So, now that you've got a little bit of history, a little bit of background about lids, we're going to take them out there and we're going to show you why everyone should have a lid in the bag. The first hole on our lid tour is hole 3 here at Cumberland. You can see we got this pesky bush right in front of us, and the pins down there are about 220 feet. Like I said before, the great thing about lids is they tend to hold any line you put them on when you give them enough height and a decent amount of snap with some not too cruddy form. I'm not known as a form guru, so this may turn out bad, but we're going to try a Sky Anheuser, see how close we can get them to the basket. First up is the Yikun Talon or Claws. As you can see with the Te Moko, I clipped a tree. It's a frisbee disc and I just got too much on it right out of the hand. Again, these lid, slow type frisbee discs are not for everyone, and they're certainly not for me all the time. I'm still maybe 40 feet out from the basket, so it didn't go too far. Next closest is the Innova Polecat. It did indeed hold the Anheuser line the whole way, went around the trees, came in. I think it might have hit this, which is actually the short position for this hole. And it leaves us with about a 30-foot putt. I'd probably run this with my Salient touch. Never really putted this far with the Polecat. We'll see how it goes. What do you know? And our actual closest to the pin is the Yikun Talon or Claws. It held that Anheuser line, but because it's actually an overstable lid, it kind of panned out at the end. It leaves us with about a 25-foot putt. Here we are, hole 5, one of the most ace holes on this course because it's only 181 feet. Dead straight. Perfect lid shot, but there's a branch sticking out of the way. We're going to give it a go anyway. First up, Salient Lockjaw. The Te Moko, even though it's really glidey, I just didn't get it high enough in the air and it petered out. I'm still about pin high, but I was kind of hoping for it to push a little bit further and a little closer to the basket, but as you saw, it definitely held the line I released it on. Next closest is the Salient Lockjaw. I pulled my shot a little to the right, and as you saw, it just went extremely straight. You can't really see the snow pattern, but it faded just at the end as it was coming in. Leaves me pin high with maybe a 15 to 17 foot putt. The closest on this go around was the Innova Champion Polecat. It's a little less all-around stable than the Lockjaw or the Te Moko, so it allowed it to just float right in there and nestle here for a nice, I don't know, 8-9 foot putt. So now we're here at hole 1 of Wide Field. You may recognize this hole from previous videos I've done where I've thrown a nice sidearm shot. This time we're actually going to use the lids, and one of the things that's an advantage of a lid is it holds any line you put it on, allows you to hit extremely tight gaps. The sidearm route on this hole allows you to take it out wide and use the natural fade into the basket. If you're throwing a lid, is really the only type of disc you can use to punch through the really small gap and have a possibility of an ace, much less putting it right under there. So let's see how it goes. First up, Salient Lockjaw. Polecat turned over a little bit, got a lucky kick off the tree. You can see leaves us with this nice easy putt. The Te Moko was definitely the straightest. It took a laser beam line, punched right under the tree, landed right here again for a nice easy putt. And the Lockjaw, being the more overstable of the lids, had a little bit of fade, came in right here, still leaving us with a nice easy putt that I missed. Alright, our last stop on the Cumberland portion of our lid tour. We're at hole 7, another one of the more aceable holes here at Cumberland. It's 177 feet, slightly off to the right of the tee pad. There's really nothing in the way as long as you don't clip these trees right in front of you. It's basically the perfect lid shot. So we're going to throw all 4 of our lids, see which one gets closer. Te Moko, I got over on a little bit. Again, it's a little more sensitive than the Polecat or the Claws or the Lockjaw. It's not the disc fault, I just didn't throw it well. Again, leaves me pretty far out for a putt. Closest is the Lockjaw and the Claws. See, they're both right within each other. Decent putting range. I was hoping to be a little closer to the basket, especially on this short of a hole. Lockjaw and Talon. The closest lid, even though it drifted off to the right, the classic Innova Champion Polecat. Still leaves me with a 22-footer. Should be able to make it. We'll see. Swing and a miss.
So there you have it, folks. There's some lid shots, and to give you a general idea of what a lid type disc can do. Like I said, I bagged the Polecat for a good long while, and I actually had it way back in the day when I first started playing, and I took it out because I always thought these were kind of like beginner discs, but they're really not. They have a lot of uses. They're really great. I didn't throw them that well on camera, but trust me, these are a staple in my bag. Like I said, I rotate out between the Yikun Claws and the Salient Lockjaw, which for all intents and purposes are the exact same disc. And lids have a long heritage in disc golf. Disc golf started by Steady Ed Hedrick, who popularized the actual frisbee, which we saw with the Te Moko. And the motto of the original Whammos was flip flat, fly straight, and that couldn't be more true for a disc like the Te Moko or even a lid. As long as you throw it straight, it's going to go straight. They tend to have a lot of glide, and they just sit down. Even the Salient Lockjaw / Yikun Claws, which are a little more overstable, if you throw them with a decent amount of snap, they're just going to go very, very straight and just settle down. They're great for running chains. They're great for parking those tricky holes that you maybe have some trouble with. You're going to need a little bit of a ceiling because they do require some height to get any sort of distance. They're great upshot discs. They're great Anheuser. They hold hyzer lines. They go very straight. Basically, you need a lid in the bag. It's as simple as that. You'll really improve your scores, and it's going to teach you a lot about form. Like I said in other videos, online, everywhere I go, I don't have the greatest form out there. If I did, I'd be throwing 550 feet with accuracy with a T-bird. But I can't. Lids have helped me go from a very sloppy player to a decent, seasoned player that can control basically any type of disc. And I chalk it all up to throwing lids. I do have to give a special shout out to Disc Golf Course Review user T-bird888, who's the first one that suggested I put a Polecat back in the bag, and I did on his suggestion, and it's really improved my game. Like I said, I don't use the Polecat anymore. I use this bad boy, the old Lockjaw, but it's the same principle, and I never would have picked him up again without his help. So he's a great one to go to if you're looking for lid advice, and if you're on the internet forums. Go to dgcoursereview.com, sign up for an account, and hunt out T-Bird888. He's much more proficient with lids than I am. He's much more of a fan, and he is the main reason that Champion Polecats even got made in the first place. So if you're looking for advice, I'm maybe not the best guy to go to, but T-Bird888 is. Sorry I don't know his real name. Even if I did, I wouldn't say it online. So until next time, get out there and huck some discs.